Hello, Inkrats. We're back with some more Colorado Avalanche franchise mode in FHM 12. And in this one, we have the start of the year 3 offseason after yet another disappointing playoffs in which we were eliminated in the first round. And here's the deal heading into this offseason. There are a couple players that I have on the trade block, which includes Samuel Girard and Ross Colton. So Colton, 31 years of age, 2.5 star ability. He's making $5 million currently. His physical category is really starting to decrease. Speed's down to 12, stamina 11, agility at 12. And with his decrease in points, drastic decrease in points is year number one. Year number one, he had 49 points in 75 games played. He was great there. It's 2 seasons ago, actually. He had 27 points in 59 games played. And then in 50 games played this past season, 17. So Colton is clearly, I think, on the way down. And when you take a look at what he wants on his contract, 6.3 for 3 years, I just cannot justify that. So he's going to be on his way out because we are going to need to make some salary cap space here with who we are going to be acquiring shortly. As for Girard, he's 30 years of age, making 6.6 for 1 more year, 2.5 star ability. Pretty good offensively. Defensively is good. Mentally is good. Physically is great. So you might be wondering, why do I want to get rid of him? He had 48 points last season. He had 39 the year before, 46 the year before. Consistent 45-point guy. Very good for offensive scoring depth. And obviously that's something we struggled with last year was scoring depth. He's got that 17 mobile defenseman rating as well. So again, why am I getting rid of him? Well, I tried negotiating with him. What he originally wanted was 7.7 for 5 years. I wasn't going to do that for someone who, you know, he'd be 31 by the time the contract extension kicks in, first of all. So it takes him to 36. And I'm not willing to pay him that much, 7.7 for, you know, up until he's 36. That's just not going to work for him. I don't think he's going to have that much longevity, given that he's only a 2.5 star ability. And because I didn't want the 5 years, I negotiated with him a little bit. I was able to get him to $9 million for 3 years. So got his ears down a little bit, but that's just too much. That's too much for a player like Girard. And he's even still, again, that's still taking him until he's 34. I just don't think he's going to have that kind of longevity and usefulness at that age, you know. That would be a really hard contract to trade, I think. So I just can't justify signing him to that $9 million per year, especially not when you have McKinnon, Natchez, and Makar making as much as they are, right? Obviously, we got Makar at a discount, but still, you got to cut costs somewhere, right? And I just don't think that Girard is going to be worth that much money for that long, you know? Maybe if he was willing to do 1 year for $9 million, I'd do it, but obviously he wanted a long term and I didn't. So that's why we're going to be trading him away. But there's actually one more trade that I want to make that does not involve Girard that we're going to do first. And that is going to be with the Calgary Flames. They are currently balanced according to their team outlook. However, it is worth noting that last season, they only had 36 wins. They did not make the playoffs last season, nor year number 2, nor year number 1. So they've been outside the playoffs the entire franchise mode so far. And they don't exactly have the best roster composition either. They have 1 4-star player, that's their goaltender in Wolf. And then you have Riley, who's 34, 3.5 star ability. Coronado, 25, 3.5 star ability. After that, drops down to Reshny, Veronka, Frost, Gryden. And sure, they have a couple of good young players in there, especially Lawrence, tight end Lawrence. So despite their current outlook being balanced and their outlook for next season being win now, I can't imagine they're actually going to be competing for anything next year. So what we're going to do, we are going to trade for Kevin Ball. He's not in their trade block. However, they're selling him pretty cheaply. He's a great defensive category, solid physically, pretty good mentally as well. Offensive ratings obviously aren't the greatest. Puck handling's at 15. That's all I really care about for him, for a defensive defenseman like himself. He's making 5.35 for the next 3 years. So we're going to send the rights to Gagne and a 5th round pick for 2028 in exchange for Kevin Ball at 5% of his salary retained. Offer trade. And now the next trade we're going to be making is with the Columbus Blue Jackets. That is where we are going to be sending Mr. Samuel Girard. And along with him will be the rights to Luke Brunin. He's 22 years of age, only a 0.5 star ability, 3.5 star potential goaltender. He really hasn't done much so far as development, and you know, the majority of his good years already behind him development wise. I mean, he's had some good numbers, I guess, the past couple of years, but he's still very much a ways away from being NHL ready, and it just doesn't seem like he's going to hit his potential. And besides that, goaltenders are very common in the draft, as we all know. Especially later on. So we're going to be putting the rights to Bruin in there, along with a third from this year's draft, and a second for next year's draft. And what we're going to be getting in return is the rights to William Gagne. So we're giving up the rights to Gagne in the other trade with Calgary, and we're getting Gagne here in this trade, as well as a first-round pick for next year, and then another first-round pick for the year after that. 2 firsts. That's right. And with where Columbus is as a franchise, they consider themselves a win-now team, right? They've had 50 wins in each of the past 2 seasons. So it makes sense that they would be, looking to push and potentially make a cup run. However, I look at their roster and it's just not really too impressive, is it? It's really not. I got to imagine that they're bound to fall off eventually here. I can't imagine that this is going to be too competitive of a team. And I mean, I guess you add Girard into the mix there, and all of a sudden they do have another good offensive defenseman. So maybe they will be good. I really don't know. It's going to be hard to tell. That said, we're getting 2 first-round picks out of this. So they're clearly willing to give up 2 firsts for Samuel Girard. And I was going to include Colton in this trade initially, but it turns out he actually has negative trade value. As we see, I add him to the trade. He brings it to a well-balanced offer. So I think what we're going to have to do for Colton is just shop him and just take whatever. So this is going to be the trade. You have Girard, the rights to Brunin, a third for 2028 and a second for 2029, next year's draft, in exchange for the rights to William Gagne, a first for 2029 and a first for 2030, off a trade. And obviously we're going to need players to replace Girard and Colton, right? And that's part of why I'm acquiring Kevin Ball. But another player I'd like to go after for the defensive core is the right defenseman, Antti Tuomisto. He's only a 2-star ability, but he looks pretty good. He's got some well-rounded ratings here. He's not going to be anybody too impressive. He'll probably just end up being our 7th defenseman or maybe 6th defenseman at best. But I like his personality. He looks pretty good there. Strengths and weaknesses are good. He had 14 points last year in 40 games played for Seattle and a 64 grade. And the best part is that he does not want too much money. He only wants 1.38 for 2 years. I will give him, I think 1.7 should probably do it. There you go. I mean, it says it's a bad contract, but it's not really that bad, I don't think, especially not for a 27-year-old. Like I said, he looks decent, so I don't mind giving him that. And then at forward, who's going to be replacing Colton, or at least hopefully, is I've decided to call up Christian Humphries and Jordan Gavin. Now, obviously, neither of them are exactly ideal as far as being NHL ready. Both of their defensive categories are not great. But the way I see it, we have to start developing some of our young talent, right? I mean, even if they don't develop the way we hoped, then at least we tried, right? At least we could say we tried to develop the young talent that we currently have. Obviously, we have Jokin on board now. He's 19 years of age. He should be very good for this franchise moving forward. But Humphries and Gavin, I figured I want to give them a chance. I mean, obviously, Gavin had a chance last year. He had 0 points in 50 games played, but still, we got to do something as far as developing our prospects. And so I figured I'll give those guys a chance. Humphries is already 22. So if he's going to be making it into the NHL, you figure it's got to be within the next year, right? So we're just going to see what they can do. Obviously, there's plenty of forwards out in free agency that we could just sign, but I'm not exactly enthusiastic about signing players who are, 30 plus at this point, because, at that point we would just be in the cycle of rotating veterans in and out year by year, right? That's not sustainable at all. So I wanted to give a chance to both Gavin and Humphries to see if they can make a name for themselves. And maybe that'll come back to bite us. I don't know. But what I do know is that just signing old players like that in free agency constantly year by year, I'm not a fan of that strategy of just plugging holes temporarily with veterans on a team that already has a lot of veterans, right? Like that's not going to go well long term. It just won't. So that's why I'm giving the chance to Gavin and Humphries. And then once we get Tuomisto on board, as well as once the deals involving Ball and Girard go through, then we will offer out Colton on the league shopping page. So I think with that said, we can advance because there's not much else that we need to do. I've already gone ahead and signed a skill coach, Luke Richardson, who replaces Mark Kaufman, who retired this past offseason. So we're going to go ahead and advance to the draft order announcement because we have still quite a bit of offseason ahead of us, mainly being the draft. All right, the Calgary Flames and the Columbus Blue Jackets have both accepted our offers. So going to Calgary will be the rights to Alex Gagne and a 5th round pick in exchange for Kevin Ball at 5% of his salary retained, accept trade. And to the Columbus Blue Jackets will be Samuel Girard, a second, a third, and the rights to Luke Bruin in exchange for 2 firsts and the rights to William Degagne, complete trade. So thank you, Samuel Girard, for your service. It was much appreciated. And what we're going to do now is offer out Ross Colton on the shopping block. So let's see what we can get for him. And it looks like it's going to be a 4th round pick. So that's a bit unfortunate, but I guess that was to be expected considering that he was adding negative value to the Girard trade. So let's try to trade him to a win now team that needs wingers, assuming there are any. I mean, the Islanders are balanced. They need left wingers. So I guess the Islanders make the most sense right now. Yeah, I would say the Islanders, out of all these teams, the Islanders probably make the most sense as far as team needs, so I'll accept their offer. All right, now let's go through the draft lottery. At number 16, you have the Islanders, followed by Montreal, Vegas, Boston, Ottawa, Carolina, Calgary, Boston, so Chicago moves up, Toronto, so Seattle moves up as well, Nashville, Pittsburgh, the Rangers, Vancouver at number 4, LA at number 3, and Seattle at number 1, followed by Chicago at number 2. All right, here we go. Time for the draft. Where are we picking? We are picking at number 24. So I doubt many of these guys will be available by then, and I don't think that we're going to be able to get any of the top 10 picks, so we'll just simulate up to our pick. All right, we're at number 24, and there are 3-star potentials left. There's Milos Spellqvist, who is a 1.5-star ability already. He was very good for us in the River Rats franchise mode. He was projected to be picked at number 5. Personality is decent. Strengths and weaknesses. Strongest part is goal scoring ability. Stamina above average. Does slack off in practice. Fairly strong. Good ability to read the play. Weakest part of his game is his physical play. Gets injured a little bit more often than you'd like to see. He has the 4-star consensus potential as well. So I think Spellqvist right off the bat is the number 1 candidate at the moment. Offensive category is just about NHL ready, just about NHL average, I would say. Defensive category obviously still needs some work. Physical ratings are decent for this point, and mental ratings are also pretty decent. So I will put him on the watch list, on the draft list rather. But I can't imagine too many other guys are going to be ahead of him here because he is definitely the best player as far as overall ability goes currently. Okay, so I have 7 players on the draft list. In Spellqvist, Luis Oscar Holloway-Chuck, he's got a 3.5-star consensus potential, 3-star team scouting potential, 1-star ability. Got some decent ratings in there already. All the guys who I add to the list have a decent personality at the very least. Strengths and weaknesses. Strongest part of his game is playmaking. Above average skater. Pretty good stamina, pretty good on-ice vision. Weakest part of his game is physical play. Gets injured a little bit more often than you'd like to see. Then you have the right winger, David Edqvist. He's a 2.5-star potential, 3-star consensus potential. Got some decent offensive ratings in there already. Defensive ratings aren't bad. Physical ratings, speeds at 16. Mental ratings, determinations at 14. He is slightly prone to controversy, unfortunately, but that's not the worst thing in the world. And he is only an AD scouting grade, so that's something to keep in mind. However, strengths and weaknesses, strongest part of his game is skating. Pretty good stamina. Coaches like his work ethic. I like that about him. His decent on-ice vision. Weakest part of his game is physical play, but none of his weaknesses are a serious liability. Then there's Christian Gauthier. I think he's pretty interesting. He's going to be a project. He's going to be one of those project players who's going to take at least 5 years, I think. However, he does have the 3-star potential. And take a look at his scouting page. He seems to perform better under pressure. I like that about him. Strengths and weaknesses aren't too spectacular. His strongest part of his game is his intangibles, which I also like. Decent stamina. Weakest part of his game is his goal scoring, and will log a fair amount of time lost to injuries. So not the best player out there, but someone to keep an eye on, I think, maybe for the later rounds. Then you have Edvin Ostberg, who's a 3-star potential. Defensive and physical ratings need some work. Offensive ratings are, I guess, decent for this point. Personality is good. Strengths and weaknesses. Strongest part of his game is his playmaking. Above average skater. Pretty good stamina. Pretty good on-ice vision. Weakest part of his game is his physical play. And of course, will log a fair amount of time lost to injuries. Then you have Nicholas Christensen, who's a 3-star team scouting potential, 2.5-star consensus potential. Offensive ratings are, I guess, okay. Defensive ratings need a bit of work. Checking's at 12, positioning's at 12. Physical ratings, speed's at 13, stamina's at 14, and determination is at 13 for the mental category. So, I mean, he'll probably take like 3 or 4 years, but I could see him potentially doing something. Strengths and weaknesses, strongest part is playmaking. Very good stamina. Weakest part of his game is goal scoring, and he gets injured a lot more often than you'd like to see. Then the goaltender, Marty Bauer. He's a 3-star potential team scouting, 4-star potential consensus. Goalie ratings are, I mean, mostly 10, some 11s in there. 112 for reflexes. Mental rating determinations at 17. Personality-wise, he's pretty good. He has the AD scouting grade, unfortunately. Strengths and weaknesses. The strongest part of his game is his intangibles, as always for goaltenders. Even the best parts of his game are difficult to describe as strengths, but none of his weaknesses are a serious liability, so it looks like just a middle-of-the-road type goaltender. He is ranked at number 1, though, for European goaltenders. So probably the best goaltender available at this point, and then back to Spelkvist. So I think, honestly, it's got to be Spelkvist. He's just so much better than the majority of the guys. In fact, all of the guys that we just looked at, not only in terms of his ratings, but also as far as his strengths and weaknesses. And just overall, Milo Spelkvist is obviously the best pick here. So we'll be taking him. Welcome to the Colorado Avalanche, Milo Spelkvist. And we're now at pick number 56 here in the second round. There's still a couple of guys who are on our draft list available as Edqvist, Osberg, and Bauer. So when it comes to the three of them, I mean, Osberg's the only one with the AC scouting grade. Then again, centers are very common in the draft. So I prefer to take, I guess, Edqvist maybe. I mean, he has some decent ratings already for being a one-star ability. So especially that 16 speed, I like that. And again, he is a little prone to controversy, but I do like his work ethic trait there as well. So yeah, I think I'll take Edqvist here with this pick. He looks pretty interesting. Welcome to the Colorado Avalanche, David Edqvist. And getting to the fourth round now, obviously we traded our third. Chicago wants number 112 in exchange for 113 and 169. So just moving back one pick, essentially. I guess there's a player they really want here in order to just so they move up one pick. It seems a bit strange, but you know what? We do get an extra 6th round pick out of it, and there's not really anybody here that I'm particularly interested in. I guess they just want to make sure they get their guy here. I'm not sure who it would be. It would be interesting to see who they pick, though, because I'm going to accept this trade. So let's see who they pick with number 112. It'll be the goaltender or Chomsky. Okay, interesting. All right, so now it is our turn to pick. At number 113, I was considering taking McCulloch because he's the left defenseman, and you know, defenseman in the draft's a little bit hard to come by, unfortunately, especially later on. But unfortunately, players like McCulloch make the coach's job a lot more difficult. I'm going to avoid him. So I think I'll be taking Patrick Heinonen instead. He's a 2.5-star potential. Personality is pretty good. He's known for his intelligence. He gets along well with everyone and always handles criticism in a constructive manner. Strengths and weaknesses. The strongest part of his game is his playmaking. He's very strong, very good stamina, good skater, good ability to read the play. Weakest part of his game is goal scoring, and even the worst aspects of his game are still relatively strong. So not really anything negative there. He is going to take a little while. I think it'll take probably, it seems like 3 or 4 years, maybe, potentially 5. But I think once, assuming he does make the NHL, it looks like he might be pretty good. Or he's at least worth taking a chance on, I think, at any rate. So Patrick Heinonen, welcome to the Colorado Avalanche. And now a few picks later at number 120. And I think I'm going to take Santeri Koski. He's a 2.5-star potential. Seems like probably, I'm going to say a 5-year project at least. However, I do like his personality. Strong suit, his ability to deal with adversity. He takes success in stride, and he isn't in it for the money. Strengths and weaknesses. Strongest part of his game is playmaking. Pretty good stamina. Doesn't slack off in practice. I like that. Skating ability is a positive. Decent on ice vision. Weakest part of his game is physical play. Gets injured a lot more often than you like to see. Probably due to his head. But scouting grade, interesting here, his scouting grade is an AB. So obviously it's not guaranteed that he'll hit a 2.5-star potential, but it seems likely that he'll reach that potential because the chance being B means it's close to certain that he'll reach that potential. So I think Santeri Koski would be someone worth taking here. So welcome to the Colorado Avalanche, Santeri Koski. On to round number 6, pick 169. With this next pick, I will be taking Yuna Lipoyoki. He's a 2.5-star potential, 14 puck handling already, 14 offensive read, 13 positioning, decent physical ratings. He obviously needs to work on that, but some of them are okay though. Mental ratings, determinations at 13. Personality is good, strengths and weaknesses. Strongest part of his game is playmaking, above average strength, capable of handling heavy workload, above average skater, pretty good ability to read the play. Weakest part of the game is goal scoring, and seems prone to injuries. So nothing unusual there as far as injuries go. So we'll be taking him with this pick. Welcome to the Colorado Avalanche, Yuna Lipoyoki. And with this pick, we're at 184. We'll be taking Daniil Pavlinin, the center, 2.5-star potential. He's got some pretty decent ratings in there already, especially for this part of the draft. That's not bad. Some 13s in there, 13 checking, 13 faceoffs. Physical ratings are mostly 12 or 13. Team players at 15. Personality's okay. Strengths and weaknesses. The strongest part of his game is his skating. Pretty good physical shape, decent on ice vision. Weakest part of his game is his physical play, and then tends to get hurt a bit more than average, but that's all right. So we're going to be taking Daniil Pavlinin with this pick. Welcome to the Colorado Avalanche. And is that it? No, I think we have a 7th, right? Yeah, we have a 7th at number 216. So I will be taking Eric Ogren with this pick. His strongest part of his game is his defensive play, excellent on ice vision, known for his physical strength, can handle a lot of playing time. Skating ability is a big plus. Weakest part of his game is his physical play, seems prone to injuries. Personality is pretty good. He gets along well with everyone, takes success in stride, and always handles criticism in a constructive manner. He's a 2.5-star potential, and his offensive read is already at 16. Positioning is already at 14. So that's a pretty good 7th round pick if you ask me. So Eric Ogren, welcome to the Colorado Avalanche. And that should do it. So with that, we're going to simulate ahead and see if we get Tuomisto. And yes, indeed, Tuomisto has signed with us. So that should just about do it for the year 3 offseason for your Colorado Avalanche. So we're going to go over our roster here. We have 22. So I think we could probably get one more forward now that I think of it. May as well be a center. I mean, we could always just call up Ivan. He's got some decent ratings in there, especially mentally and physically. Who's out there in free agency still? I'd imagine still quite a few guys. They're all wingers, though. I kind of want a center. There's Faxa, Suzuki, Texier, Barre-Boulet, who we released not long ago. Texier does not have a high face-off rating. Suzuki only at 13. I prefer someone with good face-offs. Faxa has 15 face-offs, 16 positioning. Not a fan of his physical ratings, but if we could get him for cheap, then he wouldn't be bad, I suppose. 2.7 for 2 years. I mean, that's not bad, but maybe go for 1 year. Go for 1 year at 3.2. No, I'll give him a bit more, 3.3. All right, good. And there it is. Radek Faxa has signed with your Colorado Avalanche. So that is going to be it for the year 3 offseason. So let's advance up until the preseason.
This game stinks.
I gotta start saving after the draft. The game just crashed again for the second time, and I think that's probably a few episodes. I think episode 4 was the last crash. So that's 2 out of 3 off seasons where we crashed here. At least I still have some of the players pinned on the list, but I'm gonna have to stop the recording again and go back to see what players I selected so that we can go through this faster and then get everybody else back. Oh my goodness. Okay, I guess I'll pause the recording here. I'll go back to look and see who we drafted, and then I'll do my best to replicate that. And then hopefully we can advance and nothing will crash after that, because that's it's getting a bit concerning now. That's 2 times in 3 seasons. Okay, here we go again. So with the 24th pick, we took Milo Spellquist. With the 56th pick, we took Edquist. Is he there? Yes, he is. And I believe we traded 112, or Chicago inquired us about 112, and we accepted their offer of 113 and 169. Will they offer it again? No. For the sake of doing everything the same, I'm going to make them that offer all over again. So which pick is this? Is this the Islanders pick? I think this is the Islanders pick in exchange for, I guess it would be this one and this one, right? Will that work? No. Okay. Then I guess we're just going to have to make a pick here at number 112, and I may as well take the player that I took at 113, which will be Patrick Heinonen. Welcome to the Colorado Avalanche once again. And now at number 120, I'm going to take Santeri Koski. I believe 169 was the pick that we got from the trade with Chicago. So we're not going to have that one here. And we're skipping ahead to 184 instead. And there is Lipoyoki, who we took with 169 last time. There's Ogren, who I took at 216. And then there's also, where's Pavlinin? Did he go? I think Pavlinin might have been taken. Yeah, Pavlinin was taken at 151. So in that case, I will take Lipoyoki with the pick that I previously took Pavlinin with. And then at number 216, will Ogren be there? Yes, indeed. I will take Eric Ogren with number 216 once again. So mostly the same as last time, so not bad for a redraft there. And just to make sure, let's save the game so I don't lose any of that progress. And then, I mean, I guess Stamkos is available. We were trying to acquire him last season from Nashville. You talk about depth scoring, maybe he could be some decent depth scoring. I mean, he had 13 points in 14 games played for Buffalo last season, and then 49 points for Nashville in 67 games played. So he's still clearly capable of putting up points. You know what? Let's try to offer Stamkos. He wants 4.5. Is that going to work? Tuomisto is getting 1.7. 83. Yeah, we'll have enough. We should have enough for that. So yeah, sure. Let's get Stamkos for 1 year. We'll go 4.7 for 1 year. And I guess maybe Faxa could still help for the defensive side of the game. His speed's only 11, though. I really don't like that too much. At least his strength is 15, but actually only 13 puck handling. Nah, I think if anything, Faxa would be a good depth player, like a good 13th forward, but I'm not paying a 13th forward $3 million. So no thanks. I'll stick with Stamkos. And there goes. Steven Stamkos has signed with us as well as Tuomisto. So I'm just going to save once more. And then we will simulate ahead and see if we can make to August 1st this time, because I believe it crashed on July 21st, somewhere around there. So around the same time that it crashed the last time the game crashed. So let's hope it goes well. All right, we did indeed make it to August 1st, and we're at the Hall of Fame. So let's see who is inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame this year. It is Sergei Gonchar, Keith Yandel, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Steve Duchesne. Or no, it's not Duchesne, it's Duchesne, right? Yeah, it's Duchesne. It's like Matt Duchesne, sort of, but with the silent S, I guess. I wasn't... I've heard it pronounced different ways. So, Carter Meyer up to a 2.5-star ability now. So he's looking good for next season for sure. Up to a 4.5-star potential as well. I would say it's a good thing we left him in college this year. Already has 1 goal in the season, so we'll see what he does. And this is going to be our roster heading into year number 4. You have Nabokov and Blackwood in net, both 3.5-star ability now. On defense, you have Makar, Malinsky, Akan, Ball, Brodin, Tuomisto, and Middleton. And at forward, you have McKinnon, Natchez, Landeskog, who is still a 3.5-star ability. So he's only got 1 year left on his deal, but he's been pretty good for us. He's been much better than I expected, for sure. He was able to rebound nicely. Lehkonen, Drury, Stamkos, Bardakov, Poulin, Brindley, Prishkapov, Humphreys, Gushin, Gavin, and Zhokin. Of course, Zhokin is actually down to a 4-star potential now. That said, if he has a good season, then maybe he can get that back up there. So we're going to keep an eye on him for sure. But that said, this has already been a very eventful episode, so we're going to end things off here. But not before I thank the channel members. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.